for our final four genres in fantasy, we're going to discuss science fantasy, grimdark fantasy, gothic or dark fantasy, and the new world. So with science fantasy, it marries the science fiction elements with fantasy elements. Kind of creates hybrid worlds where technology and magic coexist. My Titan Home series, while it may be an RPG setting, I am writing Kindle Velas. It is very much based on the fact of machines and magic existing together, which is very interesting. So some examples of this, Star Wars. A lot of people think Star Wars. It is science fiction. I beg to differ. It falls within science fantasy. The Force is very much basically a magic system existing in that world, making it science fantasy and not science fiction. A Wrinkle in Time is also science fantasy. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy falls in that category as well. And I have to say that Dune falls in science fantasy as well. The Bennett Jesuit is definitely kind of a fantasy type element that where they kind of, see the future and have these kind of abilities, I guess, if you will. I would say that it falls in the realm of science fantasy, although it's highly written. A lot of people think that it's science fiction, which you could probably put it in that category as well. Like I said, some of these books fall into multiple categories. The next one is grimdark fantasy. This explores dark and morally complex themes. It's usually very gritty, very harsh worlds. I would say Game of Thrones falls into this category. It's definitely very gritty. Some of the topics and the themes in Game of Thrones are somewhat taboo and questionable. The Black Company falls in this category. Dark Tower and Coraline. These are definitely have kind of a dark theme to them. If you want to talk about grimdark fantasy, I would even say Penny Dreadful could potentially fall in this category. There's definitely some grimdark aspects to it. I would also say that the Gothic dark fantasy, which is the next category that we're going to talk about, I would definitely say Penny Dreadful could definitely fall in that Gothic dark fantasy as well. Others, and the reason why is because the Gothic dark fantasy definitely accentuates very eerie atmospheres, and macabre elements and psychological tension. And I don't know if you've watched Penny Dreadful series, there is definitely some macabre themes in there and definitely some psychological issues going on. The classic Dracula falls within a gothic / dark fantasy genre. Neil Gaiman's The Sandman also falls in that category as well. And then to round out our talk on fantasy genres is the New World. This is kind of a new world fantasy, transports readers to uncharted territories or alternate realities. So His Dark Materials falls in this category. Throne of Glass, The Six of Crows, and then, of course, Hunger Games also falls in this category where it's kind of this new world order. It is post-apocalyptic and dystopian as well. But like I said, a lot of these books, a lot of these shows can fall into multiple genres. And what that means for you as an author is that these are different audiences. So it's not, you didn't just write for one audience. You wrote for multiple audiences that can appeal to a wider variety of potential readers. You just want to make sure that whenever you are choosing multiple genres to write in, that you're not making it so vague that you don't give enough of what that audience is looking for it to actually have any relevance in that category. So again, you probably want to look for your top 3 genres or subgenres, and go from there as far as where you market your books. But I think that one of the biggest things to think about whenever you're getting started is the overall story and the themes and the characters, and where your story falls on this list of genres will help you keep the story on track and make sure that you're hitting all of the elements that your readers are expecting to be in the story, but at the same time, twisting it enough to make it different from, other books in that genre, especially in some of the more difficult genres like the epic fantasy genre, young adult fantasy, paranormal romance. There are a lot of authors writing in those genres, and so they're very highly competitive. And so you need to get really creative with your stories in order to really break out. So just some food for thought whenever you're getting started on writing your book to give you some ideas on what direction you want to go.